Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of Entrepreneur on Fire. Jeff, could you maybe laugh just a little bit less? Come on, man.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom, Vroom, Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom, Vroom, Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Jonathan Chant. How's it going? Thank you so much for being on Vroom, Vroom, Veer.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, welcome. And let's get into this thing. So you are at, let me make sure I get it right, Fitness for Freedom. And you are a kinesiologist, is that right?
That's right. Yeah, a kinesiologist.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. And so I'm being a bit of a body nerd now, being that I did massage school. So I was very intrigued to connect with you and have a chat about all things fitness, health, diet, the whole gambit, and just get into it. But we have to start with some sort of story that lets me pay my brand of vrooming and veering. So I saw on your blog that you took a client, right, through some diet issues. So let's get into that story.
Sure. So I'll call her Maggie because that's her pseudonym in the story.
Perfect. Yeah.
And so I met Maggie about 5 or 6 years ago. And when we first started working together, she was just concerned with her low back pain. So we started really simple, doing mobility exercises and light core exercises, just basically everything that she could do.
Right.
And then she would do the exercise program a couple of times a week on her own and a couple of times with me. And then over the course of time, we started introducing slightly harder exercises as she was capable of doing it. And then she was just slowly got better and better. And as she got better, we just kept making it more and more challenging. And then I said, I think we're ready to step this up a notch. And she just said, yeah, I think so too. And she started walking, which immediately bothered her back. So I got her swimming first instead. And which was okay with her because she actually had a pool right by where she worked. So Perfect. That was really, really convenient for her.
Right.
And then we kept working and slowly she made diet changes over time. She didn't follow a specific diet plan. It just started with first I had her change out muffins for some fruit. Sorry, muffins for fruit. Yeah. So she was not eating the muffins anymore as her snack. And then she was making foods with a lot of heavy butters and fats and things. So I had her move more to oils. And just over time, she just kept making all these little subtle changes and we adjusted as we went. So she was always just challenged hard enough that she could do it. And eventually she ended up losing 80 pounds.
Wow.
What preceded all of this is that she was in her doctor's office and her doctor said, you're pre-type 2 diabetic and you need to start exercising and losing weight. And that was it. That was the only advice that then the doctor stormed out of the room.
Get on that.
Yeah. She had no guidance at all.
Right.
And so we just took her through those slow, steady changes. And if you want to get really specific, I can, but that's basically the bridge of the story.
I kind of want to get into some of the finer details about that because I like how you started where she was.
Mm-hmm.
And just do these tiny little incremental start moves. I think that whenever we try to do anything change-wise, it has to be really, really simple, easy, and, just doable. It's almost like you're trying to build the habit of building the habit first.
Well, that's exactly it. She just needed something, a little bit of guidance and something to follow that was in her wheelhouse. Right. She'd worked with another personal trainer before, and she'd been hurt relatively badly by that trainer. So she was really, really timid about. She thought that, I would be similar and be really in your face, like they are in The Biggest Loser, and trying to ram exercise down her throat. But it's really a good exercise program is not like that.
They don't have to be. No.
It's you start where the person's at, and then you graduate them as they're ready to be graduated.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think this does affect like a lot of folks. It's that where they know they need to get up, they know they need to move, but they're in just so much pain that they can never really get anything going. So they have to, whatever they find, it has to be just what you said, something that the key is they have to be able to do it and do it regularly with a livable amount of pain, if there's any pain at all. One would hope there isn't. That's great though. And so how long did this spread out? That was 80 pounds. How long did that take?
The 80 pounds took 3 years.
See, that's great.
Yeah.
That's
so
healthy. That's a healthy amount of time to lose 80 pounds.
That's right. And it's, I would attribute it to this, like making small changes. It's, when we see a lot of these things on TV where it's, you have to lose, if you're not losing 10 pounds in a week, then that's not the right diet for you. It's actually the exact opposite. And if you're making changes that will actually, or are a lot more likely to stick for you, then you are making that change making very small and subtle changes to how you're living. And when you do it like that, you don't even notice that they're coming in.
It doesn't even feel like a diet.
That's right. It's not a diet because all you've done is
you've changed your eating habits. You changed your moving habits. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. Because the thing is if you try to do any sort of big change, then in your mind, you're going to be like, I'm doing this and this is temporary kind of mentality.
That's right. And that's one of the problems with diets is when you look at a diet and you say, oh, I'm doing so-and-so low carb diet.
Right.
And then all of a sudden when you achieve the weight loss that you want to achieve, then you say, oh, I don't have to do the diet anymore because the diet helped me achieve what I wanted to. And right. And lots of times they're based on restriction, which means when you don't think of a red car.
I just thought of a red car.
Right. Yeah. So it's soon.
Thanks.
It's not.
I love that one actually.
It's not rocket science. So right. It's if you say you can't do something. I mean, if it's the first thing you tell a kid, don't eat this marshmallow. One of the first things they do is they eat the marshmallow.
All right.
Right. As soon as you turn your back. So it's not. Yeah. That's
perfect. Yeah. Well done, sir. So let's get you just made me think of something else too.
Sure.
And it was more on the side of habits.
Mm-hmm.
So when I did my massage school, right, one of the deficiencies in the training, because most of the training was great, right? But then they would come up and say, of course, obviously, your client has to do their homework. And then you would devise and generate and make their homework for them. And then if they don't do their homework, they're not going to get better, right? So the idea was they come in, they get assessed by me, the neuromuscular therapist, right? Mm-hmm. And I give them a list of all the muscles that need work, right? But we never got into what the homework was. And that's kind of like what we're talking about with this habit thing, right? So just the same way you have eating habits, you have a set of movement habits or sitting habits, whatever you want to call them. Mm-hmm. And those current movement habits, like the ones that I had before I started doing this, are making my current, whatever you want to call it, my pain, right? My knees would hurt, my hips would hurt, my low back was always hurting. And that was all because of my either movement or lack thereof. So I needed to unwind that. And that took probably like 3 years for me with yoga, strength training, and then just changing the way I move, a lot more walking. But it was definitely learning. I mean, just going out and getting a massage or doing therapy or doing PT, that's not going to do it because those habits are still there and you're still going to recreate that pain all over again. Am I making any sense?
You're absolutely making sense. So your body's really designed to move in a bunch of different ways. And when you're born, you're really good at moving properly. It's really, yeah, it's really funny when you look at infants when they move, they squat perfectly, they pick stuff up really well. And then as they get older, society kind of shapes them to be in whatever, like, it's sitting in your desk at school, and then you have to crunch forward all the time, and you're writing at your desk all the time at school. And then it just perpetuates into life. And then you end up being an adult. Instead of in school, you're at a desk in a cubicle, or not all the time, but most of the time.
Right.
Or you have to move object A to point B, and then you carry it a certain way, and then it's too heavy or whatever, and you end up hurting yourself because you're not moving correctly, which is why we focus on movement first, actually, when we train people. When we do an assessment on someone, we look at how are their glutes firing properly? Do their shoulder blades retract and protract well? Are they trapping their upper? Because a lot of people hold a lot of stress, right, in their upper traps, and it can cause headaches and shoulder injuries and things like that. So are we able to give them not only exercises, but also manual therapies that allow them to move more openly and more freely to remove the pain from what they're doing? And it's not an overnight thing. It takes a long
It does. It takes a long time. It is a long haul. Yeah. Especially my my yoga instructor, she's insane. She's doing all these biomechanics trainings now. Mm-hmm. And she's totally revamped yoga. Yoga is not the yoga that she's learned so many things that are wrong with your typical yoga class. So she'll come in and go, we don't do this anymore because it's completely wrong. I'm like, yay, good for you. You learned something.
So
yeah, go ahead.
I was just to say, what kinds of things did, how is it different?
She's very, very cognizant of limiting the amount of humpback kind of positions. She wants lots of flat back. That stands out to me. She's huge on scapula movement and motility, whatever you want to call that. And oh my goodness, that hurts so much because she's my strength trainer too. When we do these what I like to call protract, retract heavy days in her strength class, that's just like something you just don't do. Enough of until you go and do it. And then you're like, oh my goodness. It feels great after you're done, but in the doing, it's like, oh my goodness. I feel good. I don't want to whine about it too much, but getting over the pain hump on the protract retract seemed like a bit of a stretch. Oh, what did she do to us last time that hurt so much? I don't remember. Oh, lower abs. Have you ever focused on lower, like the sub belly?
Deep, like your deep abdominal muscles?
Yeah. Well, not the deep ones, but the ones like that connect really, really low, like at the rectus abdominis area. The super low ones. Say like you've got your legs at a 45, or not a 45, a 90, and you're on your back, and you just try to lift your legs up, kind of with your abs. Or push your butt up in the air kind of thing. You're not actually pushing your butt up. You're just thinking about it.
I know
some people can.
Some people can. Yeah.
I can't. Yeah. I will someday.
It's sometimes it's easier if you can lay on a bench and
right. Right. Yeah. It hurts. But anyway, so we digress.
It's okay.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a fun digression. So let's talk a little bit about what I like to call the taking responsibility for feeling good, and this whole idea that you go to the doctor and he's going to, do something magical to you and make you feel better. I find that now not to be true with all of my education. Where are you on this topic?
About taking responsibility for your own. Yeah. I mean, there's lots of directions you can go with it.
Obviously, I don't want to say not all on you. I want to say everybody should go to college to be a kinesiologist. I'm saying you don't expect there not to be work on your part is what I guess I'm getting at. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, absolutely. So it's up to I'll say it like this. So I have some of my clients that I would go into work with personally. What I'm just a checkbox on their list of things to get done or things to do. And I mean that.
Sure. No, I get it. I know.
Right?
I know what that mindset is.
That's right.
Yes.
So it's like
they're treating you like an employee.
Yeah,
fix me.
Maybe not that. It's like, come in, fix me. It's like you're the checkbox, and then if they don't lose weight, then that's
you
immediately
failed.
my fault, right?
Right,
I failed because they're not losing weight,
Yeah.
except that I see them for 3 hours a week.
That would be the opposite of them taking responsibility. Yeah.
That's right. So that's the opposite. You just expect it, like they just expected something to happen. And really, if you want to make changes happen, then you have to be conscious that you're trying to make changes happen. I mean, there's lots of easier ways to do that and to take responsibility for yourself, or there's strategies that you can use, hacks, some people call them. But it's ultimately up to you to make the change, because no one can make a change for you. I can help create the condition, or someone, a coach or someone that you're working with can help create the conditions to give you the biggest chance of success. But ultimately it is up to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can get into this a little bit. I have family members that are like more overweight than me. And I can see I'll try to give them little tips and cues and stuff. It all falls on deaf ears, and I feel for them. Like one family member back in Michigan, I think she's had like 2 back surgeries, low back surgeries. And even before she had the first one, when I saw the literature that the doctor gave her, it was like low 20s% success rate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I'm like, no way, but she's just so desperate to be out of pain, So I kind of get it. But at the same time, I'm like, how do we help this person, And really what she needs is someone like you in her life that is going to just baby step her through it. It's essentially, so if your problem is, overweight or, in pain, they usually kind of go together, those two, don't they?
Yeah, they can go together sometimes, not always.
Not always.
It really depends what's causing the pain. Back pain is so tricky because there's so many things that could be. I mean,
no, I know. I have some really bad back pain. Yeah.
Yeah, like 90% of, I should say, almost all people's back pain is caused by the same thing. But then there's this small section of people that no one knows really what's causing their back pain, and those are the people that it's really hard to pinpoint what's happening. And I mean, I have a client like that. She hurt herself doing a boot camp somewhere. She was starting to feel so good with our individual training that she went to do a group class somewhere, and then she got injured when she came back, and she's never fully recovered from it. And I can't figure out exactly what it is, and it bothers me that I can't figure it out.
Right.
I mean, yeah, and it's amazing how much you can slide, and when you start focusing on the pain like that, it becomes your like the whole object of your being, and you can't think about anything else, and you'll do anything to get out of it. And that's a really hard spot to be in. And I honestly can't say that I can give anyone advice on how to get out of it, because that's their own, it's their own gig. And
it is. You do have to sort of like that. Again, it goes back to, realizing that, and instead of like saying take responsibility because it sounds so pointy fingery,
yeah, a little bit.
I'll tell it. Yeah, I know. I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. But what I want to say is, when I was doing massage, so I started out, I did like where you learn how to do Swedish and shiatsu and how to work in a spa. And then, so while I was doing that class, then I got a job in a spa. Right. Mm-hmm. And so then I was doing a lot of that sort of massage, which, paradoxically creates a lot of pain in the doer's body when you do it wrong. So I was having this weird thing where I was having like way, way more lower back pain than I thought just would come from normal, ordinary soreness. Mm-hmm. Right. And this was sort of like, I was just beginning to learn about the neuromuscular therapy kind of idea. Mm-hmm. And what that is all about. Have you ever heard of that? It's kind of like the trigger point idea.
Well, I mean, there's different types of we practice neuromuscular repatterning is what we call it.
All right.
Where there's certain triggers in your body that you can press on, and then they allow the muscle to actually activate properly. So there's muscle points and there's nerve points.
Okay.
And it's a lot easier to show on video than it is to sort of explain.
Yeah, it is really hard to explain any of this stuff. Yeah.
You can, but when you press these pressure points and then you have people go through movements, then it can really open them up. And when you do it enough over time, then slowly the pain starts to go away.
It sounds very similar. Yeah. Because the idea behind a trigger point from my school was for, through whatever, either injury or, say like bad body habits or bad movement habits, lots of static behaviors, or, like what you were saying, just your overall, life movement patterns. You generate these little pockets of pain. They call them trigger points, and they're
like muscle knots, right?
They're little muscle knots that are in need of attention. But the way the brain works, this is where the neuro thing comes in. The way the brain works is that it sort of tunes out that pain. And then that little piece of muscle will get into this situation where it needs oxygen and blood flow. So, and that's what the therapist is doing with the pressure. It's just, it's just like encouraging a little bit of blood flow in and around that area. That's essentially way oversimplified, the whole idea, right? So when I learned that, and then I was like, okay, I have to start doing this stuff on myself. So slowly over time, I just kept reading and learning and doing the basically self-massage on myself to get my back pain brought in, into control land, and then I could do massage and I wasn't in pain anymore. I mean, sure, I would still have like your ordinary, I worked and there's like some muscle stiffness and soreness, but nothing that would make me want to lie down and not move, right? It wasn't the crazy amount of pain. So I guess that's where, as soon as that was kind of like an aha moment for me, that, this is my job. Does that make sense? That's what I mean when I say, take responsibility for, this sort of thing. And I guess it does sound a little pointy fingery in your face. So I have to come up with a new way of saying
it does. But it's also true though,
right?
Because there's no magic pills, and there's no,
it's not very salesy.
Doctors, therapists, and coaches can only take you so far before you have to start doing stuff on your own.
Right. And you're there to educate your clients too.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. It's, I like to use the term lighthouse. So lighthouses, they save ships from hitting the shoreline by shining their light, right?
Yeah.
But a lighthouse doesn't go out to the ocean to save the ship,
right?
Like a tugboat would, right?
Right.
So you have to wait until people ask you for help, or they ask you for your education or advice, or they go looking for it and you're there to give it to them. You can't go chasing people and telling them that it needs to be this way or it needs to be that way, because that's when they tune out the most.
Right.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. You just have to be that, like, let them know that, hey, these are the folks that have come here, and these are how we help them, and if that sounds good to you, that is very much what a lighthouse does. It's just like says, hey, here we are. We can help you out of the dark if you want to come. That's so much better than saying it's on you, mister. Thanks for that, Jonathan. Well done. So let's talk a little bit about one of your podcasts recently where you talked about the six-pack trophy, because I was very much amused by that post. What were you trying to get at there?
So it's a six-pack. People will want a six-pack for lots of reasons, but almost always it comes down to some sort of extrinsic goal or external purpose that they're chasing a six-pack, whether that's they want to be attractive to the opposite sex, or they want people to tell them that they look so good, or ask them advice about how they got to look that good. That's really what I was getting at. And chasing a six-pack trophy is a little bit like chasing the sports car. So once you buy a sports car, it's nice to have for maybe a couple of weeks, maybe even a couple of months. But then after time, it just becomes your regular car, and it's no longer that new and exciting thing anymore. And six packs are the almost the exact same thing.
Yeah. Right.
Right. So it's like if you work really hard and you deprive yourself of all this food and you're exercising all the time, and then you say, when I get this 6-pack, I will be happy if.
Right.
If I get the 6-pack, I'm there. Then I will be happy. And then you realize that
you've got the 6-pack and you're still not happy.
That's right. But nothing's really changed ultimately.
Right.
It's, I mean, a 6-pack doesn't help you.
It doesn't
spend time with your friends. It doesn't help. I mean, maybe it helps you pick up another superficial person of the opposite sex, but it doesn't ultimately lead to happiness. And a lot of people think they need to have a 6-pack to.
I'll be happy when I have a 6-pack.
I'll be happy when I have a 6-pack. I'll be happy when I'm with someone. Some people will appreciate me once I have a 6-pack, or whatever it is that goes through someone's mind. And it's just my point of that podcast is that it's really not. That's really not the case. It's just another form of a trophy.
Right. No, you're right. Yeah. And I wanted to agree with you and then add to, obviously. Well, I was watching another show on Netflix. It's something like Big Numbers or something like that with the guy from, Harold and Kumar go to White Castle. It was the Kumar guy. Anyway, he's talking about all these different, each show he talks about a different topic and then talks about the statistics that back up and tell stories about that topic. So one of the topics was where people hook up. It's all about sex and hooking up. And I was surprised because they started talking about the different venues wherein people meet people of the opposite sex, aka hooking up. And I was telling you on the pre-show that, when I was young and doing that sort of thing, it was all bars, that was what people did. So now it's all fragmented. So some of the U.S. is still, bars. But here in Southern California, it's the gym. So most people, when they go to the gym, are looking to meet the opposite sex. And that all at once kind of like disgusted me and was like a face palm slap. Because it was like, oh, now that everything makes sense, right? Of what's going on, because I was always confused about what was going on in the fitness world. And it seemed like there was more of a focus on looking good than feeling good. Does that make sense? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
It's interesting because I'm always a little bit on the. Well, I should probably say this. I have a little story here first.
Sure, please. I love stories. Yes.
Stories. So when I was in university, I actually met my serious girlfriend that I dated for 3 years at the gym, and that relationship ended very badly. So I think it should be. No, it's fine. It's much better for both of us.
Okay, good.
But it's just like a little bit of a forewarning that. You never know what you get at the gym.
Right.
Sometimes so I really ride the fence on how I feel about this whole gym culture pickup thing, because on one hand, they're there to exercise and be healthy, and they're also there to meet people of the opposite sex. And would I rather them be meeting people of the opposite sex at a bar or at a gym where they could do exercise in the process, or 2 shots of Jack Daniels and end up face first on someone's floor?
Yeah,
they have no idea how they got there, right? So I'm really torn about that a little bit. But ultimately, when you find a space that's comfortable for you, then you'll know whether or not those types of people are there. If you want to be part of that culture, then there are gyms that have that culture and you'll be able to fit in. And if it's not the right culture for you, then there will be other gyms that you can go to and you'll be able to feel the vibe right away. And even sometimes the different times of day have different feelings or different cultures inside of them. So, I mean, you just have to find a place that's comfortable for you. I know that one thing that a lot of people are really nervous about when they first start going to the gym, or they first are starting an exercise program, is that they're really worried that other people are going to be watching them and judging them and, thinking about how good or bad they do something. But the reality is that everyone's too busy looking at themselves in the mirror.
It's true.
So,
You're right. You're right.
So you don't have to worry about other people judging you because they're too busy looking at themselves in the mirror.
Right.
Yeah. It's, that's how I feel about it. It's, I don't know, to each their own a little bit, but at the same time, it's a gym, so you might as well go there to work out.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. The whole idea of where people hook up. I mean, I'm not looking to hook up anymore. I've been married like 23 years, so it was just a novelty thing to me, really. But the larger issue to me, and I don't know if it's a separate issue or it's it's the same issue. Looking at a different way, is just the idea that it's better to look good than to feel good. kind of that just rubs me the wrong way. Not that looking bad is bad. It's not, but if you're like, say, looking really, really good, but you're not healthy, then you've missed some point to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. It's, I mean, I definitely hear where you're coming from.
Right.
It's hard to, again, it's
more
so
of an
hard
education thing.
Yeah, there's an education thing there, and also there's often people start going to the gym because they want to look good, and then somewhere along the line they transition into just wanting to be healthy.
Right.
And usually, if you don't, you have a much higher chance of success of being like exercising just to be healthy. If you've previously gone to the gym, even if it was to only your sole focus was to look good. So again, I understand what bothers me more than going to the gym are Instagram photos.
Right. Of showing their six pack.
That's right. So they have
right.
a sports bra on, they have
Right.
little shorty shorts,
Right.
and then they turn their body just on the right angle that their waist looks like it's 10 inches
Right.
wide, and then they've got their bum sticking out, so it looks like they have really big glutes. I mean, there's
way more smoke and mirrors in there than actual sexy.
That's right, hundreds of millions of pictures like that on Instagram.
Right.
And then
they're all fake.
I mean, they're definitely manipulated.
Right.
And it just sort of pushes this image of this is what fitness is,
Yeah.
and this is what fitness is supposed to be. And that's going to discourage a lot of people from even trying in the first place.
Yeah.
And so that bugs me a lot more than seeing people go to the gym and hooking up.
I saw a girl who was mad about this same issue, about the whole like too much focus on the beauty sexy thing instead of the health and movement and freedom and yada yada. She took a before and after picture on the same day. So she just made herself look all schmooey and schmoey, right? And then, and hunched over, and it was all pose and attitude, right? And she had like a really, schmooey face on, and then click before. And then she got all sexy, right? And, did up her makeup and blah, blah, blah. And, just got the lighting right. Just like what you said, and she was like, same person, same day. I was like,
I did the exact same thing. I made a blog post about before and after pictures.
Oh, see?
And how they're so easy to fake. And I just
Right.
took my shirt off and I stuck my belly out.
Right.
And I did like a little quarter view so it looked like I had a belly. And then I put an overhead light above me so that you could see all of my musculature. And then I said these pictures were taken 2 minutes apart. But like I didn't even go put my makeup on. I didn't go change anything else about my body. I just
you didn't put your makeup on? Oh my God.
I know what I did. I lied. I did a couple of push-ups.
So you looked a little pumped. Yeah.
That's right. So
you got a little pump.
That's right. But they were still taken 2 or 3 minutes apart from each other. So
that's great.
yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the keys that you talk about with your clients.
Sure.
Yeah. Let's just dive into that.
Dive straight into the keys.
Yeah.
So you have to start with where you're at is the first.
I remember that.
Yeah, which we talked about a little bit. And I really like focusing on you doing substitutions or doing new behaviors that are associated with something else. So
okay,
it's
that's like a habit thing.
That's right. So we're creating a habit. So you have a cue to everyone sets an alarm to wake up in the morning, right? So there's no reason you can't set an alarm to go to bed if you're trying to go to bed earlier.
Right.
Or you can't set an alarm through your work day and do like a little posture workout. I mean, I have lots of clients that do band exercises at their desk, at their office, like just 2 or 3, and that helps. It's already helped their posture. After even just a few days of doing it, they notice a difference.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's trying to incorporate small exercise into your day that's associated with something else is really important when you're first starting out.
I've been doing that. I have an example. Yes.
Sure.
So I'm doing like IT work. Have you ever, most people don't know what these things are, but I'm working in a school district here in Southern California, and they buy like 42 Chromebooks, little miniature laptop computers.
Yeah.
And they put them in these gigantic carts, like 42 of them. Okay. And so each school has a certain number of carts, but that's what I'm spending most of my time in front of, configuring, updating, whatever. I'm touching these Chromebooks, right? So it's an amazing squat opportunity. So instead of, like using a chair or just standing and bending, most of the time, sometimes I'll do a stand and bend. I mix it up. But the one that I like the most is the Spider-Man kind of squat, where I can just like get my knees open nice and wide, and then go straight down, grab a couple of books, and then go straight back up, put them down on the top of the cart, and then start working. So that sort of thing. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's a good example of, and you know what? It's funny when you lift things like that, and you really pay attention to, pushing your hips back and getting a good solid
getting
stance,
a good squat, right?
You end up using your leg muscles a lot more, and you end up doing a workout without even realizing
doing a workout, right?
That's right. Because when you start lifting things properly every day, then it
becomes a habit. Yeah,
that's right. It becomes a habit, but your legs start to develop. And if you haven't been lifting properly, your legs will be sore for the following days until your body adapts to it.
Yeah.
And I can speak from experience for that. When I used to work in a lumber mill, I just started when I was a teenager. I just started lifting properly one day, and my body used to never be sore, and then my muscles were never sore. But then when I started lifting like that, my muscles started to become sore, and they started to change, and I had noticeable changes in my body just
because you were lifting differently.
That's right, lifting properly and using the muscles instead of just loading the joints. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, no, that's one way. That's one way to do it for sure.
Oh yeah, there's tons of different ways to do mini little strength training thingies while you're at work, and even balance stuff too. Like another thing that I do is if I can't get a squat on, I'll do one of those. It's sort of like when you stick one leg out and it's almost like a balance thing from yoga. It's a move that like what we do.
Tree pose?
It's it's more of it's a little bit closer to Warrior 3.
Okay.
You know what Warrior 3 is? When you're leaning your chest forward and you've got one leg like planted really powerfully, and then you kind of like dip the other leg up. I'm doing that kind of.
Okay.
It's a little bit more of a, I'm just going to tip over on one leg and grab only one, as a balance thing.
Okay.
I can get away with that without looking too dorky. With all these, high school kids giggling at me doing stupid stuff with computers. Anyway, so keep going. I interrupted you. What else do you recommend?
No,
little stuff at work. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, little stuff at work.
Right.
One of my I have a couple of older clients in particular. They would wait in line at the bank, and they just practice standing on one foot.
That's perfect. Yeah, a little tree pose, right?
That's right. So anytime you're just waiting in line, there's no reason you can't stand on one foot, and you actually will get a lot better at it without even realizing it. So that's a good thing. Another thing that I always recommend is putting your workout. If you're going to do a structured workout program, put it somewhere in the day where you tend not to have other things. So if it's at the beginning of your day, as soon as you wake up, before you've even made breakfast, do a little workout routine. Maybe lunchtime at work works for some people, although the later in the day you wait, the bigger the chance are you'll blow the workout off.
So what's a really like a good quickie one? Say like just something more about a thing to do. Say like certain number of push-ups or just a warm-up thing. Because a buddy of mine, what was he saying? He was saying that he runs in the morning, like every day, like for 20 minutes. And he's saying, I'm not really doing that for exercise necessarily. It's a tiny bit of exercise, but it's like a brain balance thing. And I've been looking for something like that, but I don't necessarily want to run just because my knees already have a lot of mileage on them already.
Yeah.
Right. So, I was thinking maybe something strength-based, but just like something that's not going to make me too sweaty. I've got like a 50-pound kettlebell. I was going to do something with that, but I was like, I can't do that every day. Maybe I could. I don't know. I'm still playing with it. Yeah.
Do you want the secret?
Yeah. What's the secret?
The secret, the whole,
yeah. Give it away. Give it away.
We won't need trainers anymore. We won't need strength coaches or trainers anymore. I'm going to give you the secret for the whole world.
Yes, please.
To know right now.
Okay. Here it is.
So, okay. One big leg exercise.
Oh, okay.
One big push exercise, one big pull exercise, and a core exercise.
Wow.
And that's it. Maybe 10 to 15 repetitions, or if it's a static hold of something, maybe a minute, 30 seconds to a minute, and then you can make it a little bit harder if you get up to a minute if it's a static hold.
I'm going to write this down. So one big leg.
Yeah. So it's like maybe a wall sit. If your knees are sore, wall sits are a lot less likely to bother.
Or squats or something.
Or squats or lunges or split squats. Yeah.
And then push-ups.
Push-ups would be
You
a
said
big
one
push.
big push.
Yeah, one big push, yeah.
And then what was it? A big pull.
A big pull. So
What's a big pull?
So pull-ups. Pull-ups are a little bit hard for a lot of people. So I recommend some kind of a band pull, or maybe you could do a row with your kettlebell.
Band pull.
That's probably you can do a band pull, or the row with the kettlebell would work. And then a big core exercise. So
like crunches or something.
I would not recommend crunches.
Okay.
They're not spine friendly.
Okay.
Probably more like a plank of some sort.
Oh, right.
Or a quadruped.
Okay.
Yeah.
We do planks all the time.
Yeah, planks. So you might want something. I would do the leg. You could do the leg lifts like you talked about earlier.
Oh, right.
You're laying on your back and you try to lift your hips up.
So it would be a big core where we do like where you lift one leg and then you also simultaneously raise that's a back body thing, isn't it? That's not necessarily a core thing where you're alternating like lifting a leg straight behind you. And then I can't remember what they call that, where you've got the other arm. It's like a yoga thing.
Like a Superman, kind of? Are you laying on your stomach?
No, you start on all fours, right? And then...
that's the quadruped.
Oh, that's the quadruped.
So you're on your hands and your knees.
I don't know the names of any of these things. Sorry.
You know what? That's unique to Canada. No, I know I made that up. So
I don't know what they call it either.
No.
But we do it all the time. Yeah.
Some people call it bird dog pose.
Right. Because you're pointing, right?
That's right. So we call it a quadruped here because there's maybe 8 progressions of a quadruped that you can do.
I could do that. That's easy. That would be less than 20 minutes if I did that.
Yeah. So if you were to do that whole round like once, twice, or 3 times, and then I might actually recommend a side plank on some of those days instead of a front plank.
Okay.
Just so you get the other plane, so you get your obliques.
Yeah.
Yeah, more than your just your transverse abdominis and rectus abdominis.
There you go. Look at you throwing out all those muscle names. I want to throw a couple of things by you just to see where they land in your brain. So one of the things that I thought was kind of weird with my massage school, right, was the idea that where you feel the pain may not be necessarily the muscle that you work on. Is this a phenomenon that you found in your practice? Where you feel the pain. So let's say,
is the pain the burn or is pain something else?
No. We're talking about just like pain that you're having walking around. Like an ache, like a bothersome pain that you'd like to rid yourself of. So let's say like for the longest time, whenever I would do really long drives of say like 6 or 8 hours, I would have this just really naggy pain in my right hip.
Okay.
Right. So, at the time I was doing this really intensive massage school for neuromuscular therapy. And I was like, okay, you brain trust, help me fix this. And they're like, it's totally QL. And I'm like, no. I said hip. And they said, it's totally QL. Quadratus lumborum. Yeah. And your lower back. And I'm like, how can that be? And they're like, wait until you get to class. And so I'm like, okay, fine. It's QL. So the first thing they told me was to do this QL stretch where you cross your legs and then you just sort of like dip down, I think is no.
You can do it's really
you
hard
cross
to
your
stretch
legs.
QL.
Yeah, you cross your legs and then you lean over like a dancer, like a ballet dancer.
Yeah, you have to lean hard on this. It can be hard on your back. It can be hard on your back.
It was very, very
ironically,
hard. Yeah.
Yeah, ironically, it's hard on your back, even though it's supposed to help your back.
So the other thing I tried was this yoga therapy ball. And that totally worked. So now I still do the QL stretches whenever I get out of the car, and I just do a whole body mobility kind of thing. I do a mini yoga session every time we stop, on those long drives. That helps a ton. I got new shoes, but I also did a lot of, the new shoes was the last straw, though. I think really you got to have shoes that don't hurt anything. That was one of the big lessons that I learned, because there was these shoes, right, that I was wearing and I really loved them, and they did not hurt my feet, right? Didn't hurt my feet. But then I was just at the length, I was like, I got to try something new because this hip pain is killing me and it's not going away. And it was getting to be an everyday thing. I was doing my yoga. I was doing my QL exercise and my self-massage, and I was still having pain. And the only thing I was doing more of, it was like right when I started doing this school job, was a lot of walking. So I was like, so it's got to be something with lots of walking. So I just said, well, maybe I'll try to walk less, right? And that helped a little. But when I changed out shoes, it just like within a week or two, it was like gone. Yeah. So it's like shoes were just huge. But anyway, now that thing about the QL causing pain. So like, I don't know if it was I guess it would be the right QL was sending pains along a nerve theoretically into my hip. Does that make any kind of sense in your brain? It's like, no, not really.
No, it doesn't make very much sense in my brain. But if it makes sense in your brain, that's okay.
That's okay.
So maybe can I take a couple steps back? And
of course. Yeah.
Whenever you have
comparing notes, it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever you have pain in a certain part of your body, there's almost always something causing that pain.
Right.
So
right.
Whether and often it's external and internal. And so what I mean by that is that usually there's something in your environment that is causing that to happen. So in your case, it was obviously the shoes, because you got new shoes and immediately that made you feel a lot better.
Yes.
So once you've tackled the external stimulus, lots of people have bad workstations, like in their office, that could be causing how they're sitting, causing low back pain, things like that.
Right.
So those are, or how they're driving in the car. So those are kind of like three areas that are really common to cause pain. And then look at sort of the muscles that are attaching that joint directly, but then also the muscles that work down the chain. So you were getting a lot of hip pain,
right?
And the QL attaches mid, like at the base. I'm pretty sure it's at the base of your thoracic spine, to the top of your lumbar spine, and then at your lower hip near your SI joint. So theoretically, it could be tight and pulling your hip out of whack. There's no way I could actually tell you for sure that that's exactly what the problem was.
Yeah, I think it's just part of the whole picture.
But if I was working with someone and say I was just talking to them like this, like we're talking right now, I would always recommend that they start by using their massage balls or a foam roller or something like that in the area around the joint.
For sure.
And then that's right. So when you roll out the muscles and get to your trigger points that are around the joint, then that can help loosen the joint and help open it up and help you actually move a little bit better. I mean, there's other things too that are more technical that we can do, but that's
where you start. Right.
That's where I would start.
Right.
And often just by doing that will help a lot of people feel a lot better. And then if that doesn't work, then you can go find someone else to work with you.
Yeah.
That's how I attack it.
Yeah. And each body part, it seems like it has its own story, but still, like what you said is all, it still jives, and you did sort of retract. You're like, well, okay, QL does kind of attach to the hip. So, okay. Yeah. But it wouldn't be the first thing you think of. Right.
Yeah. QL, QL's, the main function of a QL is to stabilize your spine.
Right.
So It could be causing if it's throwing your hips out, it could theoretically throw your hips out, which could make you walk kind of funny. I'm guessing is that there was less wrong with your body in this case. If shoes fixed it immediately, then it was just that you needed new shoes.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I should say too that this was one of those things that was like, when I first talked about it, it was an isolated, just a driving thing, right?
Does your car have cruise control?
Yeah.
Yeah. Use cruise control. That'll help your hip a lot.
Totally. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Because because the shape of your leg, and then you're in that, what do they call that? It's dorsiflexion. Is that how you say when you're pulling your toe forward for a really long time? Is that dorsi or the
so dorsiflexion is when you flex your toe up towards your chin, and plantar flexion. Right. Plantar flexion is when you push your toe away from your body.
So basically, dorsiflex is hovering your foot above, say, an accelerator in a car.
That's right. If you have your foot off the gas,
exactly right. Yeah. Well, I haven't found a car yet that is like fits me. So even if I'm in cruise, I can't really find a comfy spot for that foot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? So I'm constantly wanting to stretch out my leg. Mostly just, it's almost like and I do the same thing on an airplane too. I get up a lot, but the inside leg. Now the outside leg, I always want to be on an aisle so I can like kick that knee out and just give it a little stretch every once in a while. But the inside one is like, I just got to get up. You can't kick your neighbor on an airplane. But anyway, again, we digress. Hey, this has been a blast, man. This is fun. We have to talk about a little bit more about your stuff. So let me make sure I get your URL right. Clicky. Oh, and nothing's working. I'll edit this stuff out. Sorry about that. Fitnessforfreedom.com. Hey, I got it, right?
Yeah, that's it.
All right. And you've got a podcast too, right?
We do. Yeah. It's iTunes and Stitcher. It's just called Fitness for Freedom Tips. They're short, most of them are around 5 minutes. And I like to make sure everyone listening gets something tactical and useful that they can take away from it and apply to their lives directly. Not every show is exactly like that, but I try to keep it tactical.
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 Just like my little question about the life, the universe, and everything when it comes to waking up and doing an exercise. That was the best. So that's 10 to 15. Big leg, big push, big pull, and wait a minute, what was the last one? Wait a minute, there's only 3 on my list.
Oh, big core.
Big core. See, I was trying to avoid. Big core. There we go. I didn't write it down. Now I did. All right, cool.
Yeah, you got it.
So I'll put all of that in the show notes. This has been a blast. You should come back. Yeah, and do it again.
Yeah, I will.
All right, brother. So talk to you later.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
Thanks.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.